Spare prompt. Spare prompt, ma'am. Please. I can't make a thesis statement without a prompt. Rage bait. I think I can do something with that.
What follows is a brief construction montage. We hope you enjoyed this brief construction montage.
Rage bait is a universal experience that I'm positive you've come across at some point. But in case you're unfamiliar with the term, rage bait can be defined as an intentional provocation of anger, outrage, or frustration. While there's a plethora of examples we could point to when it comes to the vast world of rage bait, there's a gold mine of examples when it comes to the rage bait from the Latin American authoritarian regimes. The corrupt governments of Latin America had a field day with rage bait. But due to the strong-willed nature of the citizens, the regime's rage bait has backfired spectacularly several times for us to look at. With these 5 sources, we'll be able to see exactly how the rage bait of Latin American authoritarianism backfired on those in power. Buckle up, it's gonna be a ride. The film 4 Days in September will start off this rage bait roller coaster wonderfully, thanks to the censorship involving the inhumane torture of some citizens of the dictatorship government of Brazil in the late 20th century. Amongst other things, the citizens refused to fall for the rage bait and felt the need for revolution, even going to the lengths of robbery, kidnapping, and even murdering to fight for their freedom. The majority of citizens are understandably afraid of rocking the boat and decide against participating in the revolution of MR8 and accept the rage bait. A wonderful dialogue between Fernando, who is a revolutionary, and his actor friend, who is a bystander civilian accepting the rage bait, greatly represents the polarizing mindset of civilization at the time, around 46 minutes and 51 seconds. Another civilian taxi driver also gives his 2 cents, calling the revolutionaries his heroes for what they've done, around 47 minutes and 20 seconds. And even though it was a close call, the government gave in to the demands of the MR8, and they have successfully won over the dictatorship's rage bait. The government even eventually gave amnesty to all those involved in political crimes in 1979 at the 1 hour, 39 minute, and 53 second timestamp. Similar to 4 Days in September, we have yet another film dubbed The Official Story, with a dictatorship featuring the Argentinian military this time. And the civilians were once again faced with the rage bait due to the kidnappings and torturings of mothers, resulting in missing children and broken families. However, this time we are not looking through the lens of revolutionaries, but a mere mother, who happens to also be a history teacher during those rage bait-filled times. The timestamp at 29 minutes and 36 seconds shows the blissful ignorance of our protagonist, as she asks her friend Anita, who just confided in her about the brutal abuse, torture, and interrogation she went through, whether or not she reported it to the police, as if it was that easy to resolve under that regime. Timestamp of 46 minutes and 12 seconds, Benitez says this quote to our protagonist, and it serves as another wake-up call to the lies some of the citizens have been made aware of. 49 minutes in and 47 seconds, we can see how an elderly citizen fears going to jail, while the other employee simply says, "What a fuss over a subpoena," as if the court process couldn't be life-threatening under a dictatorship. This scene at 50 minutes and 35 seconds perfectly encapsulates how history is literally being rewritten before the very eyes of the youth, as the driver comments on how teaching history must be hard nowadays, and how kids aren't what they used to be, mentioning his own nephew's contrary beliefs. Needless to say, after witnessing the monstrous amounts of rage bait from the government, from the torture and abuse of its citizens all the way to the breaking of families that even our protagonist wasn't aware of, the aware citizens were able to rise to the occasion and promptly handle the unjust rage bait thrown their way via rebellions and protests, resulting in multiple instances of failure for the government, thus multiple instances of unsuccessful rage bait. When it comes to the article side of the sources, we'll be starting with the Nancy Morris article that, from the start, encapsulates how the civilians of Chile and Argentina eventually spread their resistance to rage bait throughout Latin America via their very socially aware songs. On page 117, we can see this clearly with how the author states that the new song musicians did not aim to simply entertain via the normal and traditional sense of escapism, but to promote social change and actually call out the harshness of reality, as opposed to the commonplace commercial songs of the time. We know that censorship was invoked as another mere rage bait attempt from our favorite dictatorships, but thanks to the perseverance of the movement, the people managed to hold on to an outlet for their frustrations with the unfortunate reality bestowed upon them thanks to the rage bait of the government that was censoring and exiling their own people. When getting into Kristen Weld's article, the blatant amount of slander the Guatemalan government was throwing upon its own people, aka their criminal opposition, amongst the many other instances of them trying to silence all political opposition via their military regimes, calling for the criminalization of those who politically oppose their rule, was almost on a masterclass level of rage bait. However, they forgot the people could read, and they ended up resorting to the usage of the Guatemalan National Police Historical Archives to fight back against the blatant rage bait with the raw truth. On pages 46 to 47, we can see how powerful the rage bait from the dictatorship got, to the point the label illicit held so much power over the people, and the fear of criminalization and stigmatization from the label alone had even those willing to fight hesitant, due to the staying power from the rage bait labels of the government. However, they did succeed in the recruitment of the archives, and despite the slander from the government, their resistance towards the rage bait ultimately prevailed over the dictatorship's many attempts to rewrite the narrative, thus resulting in another backfired rage bait attempt. Now, the graphic novels just kind of speak for themselves. I mean, you don't really get by with such imagery depicting dictatorship unless you know there's a dictatorship going on. So you know the entirety of Cuba just kind of got their rage bait just thrown out the window. And in conclusion, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of rage bait attempts that were dished out to the civilians of Latin America often got thrown right back in the faces of the rage baiters and ultimately backfired. Lovely to see. We love a backfired rage bait. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I'm so happy I got this prompt.